And it's 6:33.
Okay.
Suzanne, all yours.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. Welcome everybody to the May Fleetwood Borough Council meeting. Let's just start with we'll do a just quick pledge of allegiance to get us in the right.
America.
To the republic for which
liberty and justice for all. Here we go.
Well, that wasn't
all right.
All right. So for participants, we have Brad Smith from Arrow. I'm going down alphabetically. We have Colin Boyer. We have Doreen. We have Ralph and Suzanne. We have Andy George. We have Craig. We have Jim Meals, Mark Watkins, Pete Merkel, Ryan Kern from BIA, our own police chief, Stephen Stinsky. If I knew your middle initial, I'd throw it in there. Tammy Gore, the Honorable Tammy Gore, and Jim Smith, John Rothenberger, and Denton Shooker. And no one waiting, so I think that's everybody. And no waiting, thanks everybody.
Not to be unstable, so maybe you could record. Okay. All righty. So let's get started then. You said Chief is there. Is he going? That's what it said. Do you want to go to the Chief's meeting? The Chief's report? Sorry.
Hang on, Suzanne, before we start, Colin made a request that we record the meeting. Is that okay with you?
Honestly, I don't know what the rules are for that. I didn't check. Colin, why are we recording the meeting?
Basically, a lot of municipalities do this, but as a matter of course, before any of this happened, a lot of municipalities will set a tape recorder right on the table and make an announcement that they're recording the meeting, and it's really for purposes of accuracy for the minutes. And I don't know if that would be helpful. It seems to be helpful to others. I don't know if that'd be helpful to Doreen. In case she would miss something, she could always go back and listen to the tape. But in this case, Colin raised a good point with some guidance. It's not the law, but it's guidance. It's strongly recommended guidance that now, because we're having these virtual meetings, that a record be preserved. There's no guidance as to how long or what you need to do with it, other than, I think, make it available to the public. If somebody would want it, then they could listen to it or look at it.
What are the rules about retaining it? How do we deal with all that? How long do we have to retain it? Who retains it, and on what for? Like how do we do that? Where do we retain this information? Who is the person who maintains it, and how long do we have to maintain it?
As I sit here, I can't answer that. I don't. I just don't know. And I know that that's not part of Act 15 that I'm aware of. But I'll talk to the people in my office that are dealing with that particular item.
So it doesn't become part of right to know?
What's that?
Does it become part of right to know?
Yes, it would.
The video recording? Okay.
Yep, it would. Is that what it said?
I
Kyle?
do remember
Make it
one of
immediately
I remember one of the right to know meetings I was at last week, or webinar on. The requirement for posting it very quickly was if you didn't have the ability for the public to join. They were recommending keeping it recorded, but waiting until it's approved before it would be
Yes.
published.
And that's
right.
everything I've heard
Or-
also. You have, they're not minutes until they're approved at the next meeting. So
Right.
you don't
Or if
post
it's
them until they're approved. I think it's fine to record it. I just wouldn't release it. I don't think it's up to us to release it on social media. So, I mean, I record it, that's fine. And when we,
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
The guidance doesn't say, unless I'm reading it wrong, that it has to be made immediately available to the public or in any sort of format. Like it doesn't have.
But preferably online, which means we could approve it and put it on our minutes on the website. That doesn't mean put it out on Facebook.
right. I'm all for
Right.
recording it, but I'm not for posting it immediately. And I'm certainly not for us putting it on Facebook. That opens up a whole can of worms. It's not up to us to use social media. So I would say, wait, take the minutes, make sure the minutes are accurate. And then once we approve it, then it's up for anybody.
Because is the plan, Andy, is it your understanding that obviously as time marches forward, that there will be no more written minutes, that all the minutes will be just recordings of whatever was said? Because I'm sure people can record now. Don't they reduce it to minutes or no?
Oh, absolutely. That's what the recording is used for. And an announcement is made stating that these minutes or this meeting is being recorded for purposes of making the minutes accurate. So, yeah, there's rules. There's rules. They can do that, but there are rules associated with that too. But I was saying that in order to have accurate minutes, a lot of municipalities will record it by audio, make an announcement that they're recording it for purposes of making the minutes that are eventually typed and then approved the next meeting accurate. So it's like belt and suspenders.
That was my understanding of it, was that that's what it was used for, to the same way that often stenographers will have a tape, or they have a tape while they're typing so that they can go back and check it. Same idea. That was my understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have any problem with recording it, but I don't agree that we would be releasing it on social media. And I think that we would continue to have written minutes, and those are what we would publish. And we could identify, I suppose, that we also had a recording available in the office, Andy, for whatever period of time is recommended, if that's the point.
Yeah, I don't know that there is a recommended time, but it does say make it available. So it would be made available if it's in the office. I just don't know what the time period is. If that's in the Records Retention Act, or it is addressed. I don't think it's in Act 15. But I'll take a look at that.
If you would, that would be great.
Yep.
So then I guess, do we need to vote on that, or what, since it's a directive, is it something that we vote on, or is it something that we could just start doing, or how do we proceed with that?
Yeah, we don't need to vote on it, but if we are recording this meeting, which I think we are, Chris, right? Then we'd need to make
Not yet. I was asking for permission
announcement.
first.
Okay, then before we start recording, we just make that announcement that this meeting is being recorded via Zoom's recording feature for purposes of, accuracy and documenting the minutes properly.
Does that constitute? I'm sorry, what, Colin? Colin, you understand that you can't publish your copy on social media, right?
Okay, so we have a lawyer, we have a counsel to the council. He gave an opinion, he disagrees with you, so you're doing it anyway, correct?
Colin? That was Ralph talking, saying that we got our opinion from Andy George.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting until this issue is resolved in person at our next physical meeting, whenever that can be.
I agree.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Pete Merkel. Do I have any further discussion?
Yeah, so that's a different question. So that's a different question altogether. And that would be, basically the question is, can a councilman take minutes which are essentially unapproved and then post those minutes or the recording or the video of the meeting independently online without authorization of council? So
It makes me very uncomfortable and
it makes me uncomfortable, whether it's impermissible or some sort of violation. I don't know that yet because I don't know that I've ever seen that issue. So, yeah.
Why is this so important to you? Why is this
I
worth
guess that's
arguing?
my question too, Tammy, and to Colin. Colin, I don't understand what you're doing. If you were trying to sow the seeds of discontent on the council, you are. You at every possible turn, you throw things out there that seem insinuations that things are not being done correctly, and somehow things are being kept from the public. I really don't understand why you would do that. We are a team who works together for the benefit of Fleetwood, as you know. So I'm just not understanding what. We're not trying to hide anything, Colin. And if you had further experience on the council, you would understand we get a tremendous amount of things done. But I think that you do everything in your power to throw issues in the way that are not necessary.
Okay, we have a first and a second on the floor. Shall we vote?
And we've heard your point, Colin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anything
Aye.
that needs to be done?
Go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is there anything that is essential that would need to be done tonight before we, finalize
nice.
that?
It would be nice to take care of Jim Smith.
I don't
That's
know
what I
what
was thinking.
Jim Smith.
If
Hey,
I
guys,
can
this
go,
is Jim Smith. I appreciate that. Was that Pete? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Pete, thanks. I appreciate that. And this doesn't have to be a part of the minutes or even the formal meeting. I just want you all to know that next meeting that you're going to continue this one to, I'm going to look forward to the opportunity to be there in person as we all will, and explain to you what good things are happening at 43 and 45 West Main Street. I'll bring John Watkins, we'll bring Keith and Diane Hawkins, and I hope to avail them to you to answer any questions you might have about the project and how it's going to make the corridor in Fleetwood even better than it is today.
Sounds
Exciting.
wonderful.
It's a very exciting thing that's
Before
happening.
we adjourn, if I can ask Brad Smith, if we do not approve the bids for Locust Street project, do we have enough time runway to do it at the June meeting? Brad, are you on? Oh, he's muted. Let me try to unmute him. There we go.
There you
Brad,
go.
are you?
Thank you, Chris. You muted me. The bids remain valid, I believe, up to 60 days as per the spec. So you can
Okay.
wait till June.
Okay.
Here's one other, and Jim, thanks for you're not asking for any action tonight, and I just wanted to thank you for calling in. It sounds like a great
Thank you,
project.
Eddie.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be asking for a waiver of a formal plan when the time comes. We'd like that sooner than later so that we can make plans on investing more money on this project and taking it from good to great.
Okay.
Didn't we already talk about this?
We did, Pete, but there was in the minutes reflecting that council generally supports. Jim wanted to get a little bit more detail.
Okay.
I was hoping that at some point we would like to petition the court, petition the council to formally waive the subdivision process. That doesn't, the development process. That doesn't mean that we don't get a building permit to do all the work we want to do. It'll be overseen by the code enforcement officer. We're going to merge and consolidate the deeds so that it is one deed with one deed description that will never be severed. Those are the sort of things that I had spoken with briefly with Andy about. I spoke with Chris, and I played phone tag with Harry today. My apologies, Harry, if you're on the phone.
Harry is not. I did talk to him right before this meeting. He said he was going to touch base with you tomorrow morning.
Yep. So that's what we'll be asking for. I think that should probably happen at a public meeting maybe next month or in 2 weeks, whenever you guys schedule your next one. I did submit a letter to the council, and I'd just like you to take a look at the letter. And if you have any questions next week or next month or whenever you guys hold your next public meeting, we'll be there to answer them.
Well, the next meeting would be June 8th, if I'm not mistaken. And that's at 6:30. Hopefully that one's a
Okay. I'll put it on my calendar. I'll be there with bells on.
All right. I know, Chris, the other thing that would need action tonight is the resolution regarding the tax grace period, because that has a submission deadline sometime this month.
Correct. So if we're going to do limited business, that and then approval to pay the bills would enable the business to continue.
Andy,
Is there a
Jim Smith.
possibility?
May I be excused?
Who was that?
This is Jim Smith. May I be excused from the meeting?
Of course.
Well, I think we need to make this motion and then, right?
He's not a participant. He's a guest.
I would love, I'd love for a motion.
For his motion. Can you make the motion, Jim?
Well, we can, sure. So Pete, we had a,
Yeah, we already talked about this, and if you need a motion, I'll make the motion.
What is that motion exactly?
that,
To waive.
Let Jim tell you what it is.
Yeah, I think the motion is that Fleetwood Borough 43 and 45 West Main Street, and provided that no substantive dimensional exterior dimensional changes are made to the property, that you would waive a formal subdivision plan, provided that all building permits are submitted and approved.
So we have a motion by Mr. Merkel. Do we have a second?
Second.
There was a second by Mr. Touch. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor? Everybody, wait a second. We're going to go by who's here. Chris, could you call up the roll?
Absolutely. Jim Meals,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Colin, Pete,
Yes.
John Rothenberger.
Chris, I think he's muted, and Mark Watkins is muted.
Yeah, I've been trying to unmute them. I think they must be muted on their end.
Finally got the ability.
There we go. We got him. John Rothenberger
Aye.
and Mark Watkins.
Yes.
Is unanimous. That motion carries.
Thank you all very much. On behalf of both the Hawkins and Mr. Watkins, I'm seeing this as a project that has worked and valued to the community of Fleetwood. Thanks to both. Thanks to all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, take care, guys.
Take care.
All right, so going back to our other motion, we had a motion and a second, and we had further discussion. Is there any further discussion?
Well, if I may, Suzanne, if you're about to adjourn, can we get approval to pay the bills and the tax? There's two more things that are relatively important before we adjourn.
On the taxes, don't you think we should probably get clarification on posting recordings before we vote on the taxes? I have no problem paying the bills.
Well,
I agree.
The only problem is that one has a deadline, and it's May something. I just can't remember. It's May 20 something. I think that the county treasurer's office wanted all the resolutions submitted back to them. So,
Can we have an emergency meeting once we know what the status is of posting recordings?
sure.
We'd have to advertise it, but we can do that.
I don't know. I mean, it makes
So
me.
that seems to be reasonable, since we'll make a final determination based on recommendation from our borough council, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. I think.
So does someone
pay the bills?
Well, the bills you can always ratify at the next meeting. Chris, do you know the deadline for that?
I know I do not, and maybe give me a second here. I can try to find my notes.
It's not in the letter that came out.
The issue is the county already did it, and if we don't do it, they don't know how to actually take that into account, because the county is one and the same. So when our taxes come out for the county taxes plus local, they all go to the same clearinghouse, if you will.
They don't have any way to split the bills. So if everybody has different deadlines that dictate discounts, and when the flat period ends, that's a problem, because they have no way to separate the payments. It would be a major headache for them. They are looking into that for next year, so we could have separate tax bills. You have 3 tax bills next year.
So it's basically a vote without any decision.
Well, right. It's like it's basically a mandate that
A mandate.
no one asked that. No, this was decided by 2 of the 3 county commissioners, from what I understand, and they wanted to rush it through, and they didn't ask any of the municipalities, or I think, any of the municipalities weren't asked, but we're required to apparently pass this resolution.
So on your screen right now, I think, hopefully you're seeing the email from Andrea Weist and Paul Jansen that indicates what they're doing. The flat period to be extended to September 30th. But they do say here that there is no immediate need. It would be recommended to complete the month of May in your normal cycles. So I don't know what that means.
There again, another recommendation.
Yep.
So we can wait.
Well, I think, by default, it's going to take its toll unless we say no. I think that's where it's going to come out to. Okay. And then the bills we'll just do by resolution at the next meeting. So we'll continue, or ratification. We'll kick that to next meeting as well. As well as the Arrow bids for Locust Street.
Any issue with holding up the bills till then, Chris?
We're going to pay them anyway. Everybody had the opportunity to review them here at Borough Hall. Colin had 2 questions on them. So I think, as Andy indicated, we could ratify at the next meeting.
Plus, we're in a state of emergency. So we got that going for us.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we had. Okay. All right. So at this point, we've had a motion and a second, and we had no further discussion. All those in favor for carrying this meeting until we get direction from our borough council as to the appropriateness.
Susie, it's Mark. I'm sorry. I do have further discussion. Is it okay?
Okay, go ahead. Sure, of course.
I've been, as you would expect a good engineer to do, I've been trying to text Chris. I don't know if you can see it, but there seems to be options in Zoom where the host can disallow recording, where we could actually, until we get the issue resolved, be that as it may, I believe the host can disallow everyone from recording except for himself. And that solves the issue until we get a better view. Just thought, I mean, we're all here. Is it worth letting?
I would add to that. I'm sorry, sir, Chief Stensky. I would add to that may be true for the Zoom app itself, but there are any number of software options that let you record what's going on your screen outside of the Zoom program.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And I'm sorry, Mark, I haven't seen any of those messages.
Well, you're not an engineer anymore, so.
Ouch. But okay.
But Chief Stensky is correct. You could record with your cell phone if you wanted to.
And I guess, Andy, the other question would be, I mean, obviously, if we have a formal recording, then the appropriateness of people recording it separately and then providing that information if they were council members. That's the issue. If there is a formal record, then how many sources are sending it out on the airwaves?
And to add to that, Suzanne, we don't have a policy on social media. So that opens up something else entirely. you know.
Yeah, well, I think there's two questions. One is the official recording that the borough is making, and the other is recordings that are made by third parties. Recordings of meetings have been made. Video recordings of meetings have been made. Audio recordings have been made in other municipalities by residents or individuals that attend the meeting. And sometimes those are posted on social media. The borough of Richland, I remember in Lebanon County, had residents record every one of their meetings for probably 2 years over one issue, really, and put them on YouTube for 2 years. But I've never had an issue where a township supervisor or a council member wanted to post a recording of a meeting online. And quite honestly, I don't know if it's different than a resident showing up at a meeting and doing it.
I think it would be different because we don't have any policy on how that is to be done. So we would have to have a policy. I mean, he's a resident, but he's also part of the council. We'd have to have a policy, and we don't. And we just can't agree to this. It's not that we're hiding anything. It's not that we're going to do anything wrong. It's just that we don't know how to handle the situation at this point in time.
Yeah, a lot of municipalities have resolutions about what happens with recordings and what happens with residents who show up at meetings with recording materials and how that has to be handled. And they have a code of conduct about, residents speaking at meetings and for, X number of minutes and things like that. So that's probably, something that we should look into.
Yep, but we're not prepared tonight, so.
Usually, I think historically Fleetwood Borough Council meetings have been, I don't want to say casual because we make some very big decisions, but I think that they've been interactive, and I think that we've encouraged people to talk. Not that I think anything's being hidden, but I would suspect, just like when people, are at a wedding and a video is suddenly turned on, they may say things differently, or they may not express something that they wish to express. So I do have those concerns that it might have more of a chilling effect on what has been up until this time, a robust discussion of what, the best opportunities for Fleetwood are. But since it seems that the world is being run by social media these days, I guess I'm not surprised that this is being put forward. So in any event, so we've got a motion and we've got further discussion. Any further discussion on this? Okay, Chris, let's do the roll and everybody will vote.
Okay, Jim, I'm just doing it by listing on here. Jim Meals,
Yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Colin,
No.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
and Tammy.
Yes,
Did I miss anybody?
John.
John, where are you? There he is. John's bouncing around for some reason. John Rothenberger.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion carries then. We've got a majority. So then, Andy, you'll get back to us with your thoughts, and maybe you could also, I'm sorry?
I said I will.
Okay, and then maybe you could also provide us with some direction or some examples of what some other municipalities are doing in terms of formalizing the meetings. I think that's probably what will happen. We'll have limited time for people to speak, and we'll have more, I guess, in following the rules of order, I would expect, to make it all proper.
I will do that as well.
Perfect. Okay, then we'll wait to hear from you and then we'll go from there.
Okay, here ends the meeting. Diane Hawkins, I see you joined us. I'll give you a call. I'll explain everything.
Okay.
All
We have
right.
a motion to adjourn.
Yep, we need a motion to adjourn. Anybody out there? I think that was only the motion not to record, so we need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Touch is making the motion to adjourn. I have a second.
I'm seconding, John.
Thank you, John. Do I have any further discussion? All those in favor, Chris, run through the list, please.
We lost some. We have Ralph.
Yeah.
Suzanne,
Yes?
John Rothenberger,
Yes.
and actually, that's it.
So 4.
Colin's on the line.
Colin, you're back.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. And that motion carries. Okay, Andy, we'll wait to hear from you then.
Very good.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, ending the meeting now. Thanks.
Bye.